Welcome to the CU Scoop. I'm your host, Philip Dukes, aka Dukes the Scoop. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Dukes the Scoop. And please hit the like and subscribe button. Also, make sure you go to the description and become a member if you haven't been. We had a really good members only chat Wednesday night, so it was fun. So once a week I'll be going live with the members. So make sure you become a member and let's get into it. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Shedeur Sanders not getting drafted in round 1 of the NFL draft. All right, first and foremost, before we get into this, I don't want this to take away from the moment of Travis Hunter. CU Buffs fans, Buffalo family, CU aunties, unks, everybody, the fam. From my crew, aka the fam, we got to make sure that even though people are feeling how they feel for Shedeur and Coach Prime and the Sanders family, we also got to make sure that we continue to clap for Travis and his family. So shout out to Travis. Happy he got to get to Jacksonville. But with that being said, we got to talk about the injustice and travesty that is Shedeur Sanders going round 2. Now, there are other guys in the NFL draft who should have run, who had round 1 talent, and there are only 32 slots. So you look at a guy like Will Johnson, who didn't run, who wasn't able to run his 40 time, and people had questions about his top end speed. So that dropped him out when he was once considered to be a top 5 worthy pick. Also, Mike Green, who had a top 10 grade, who fell out of the first round based on some character concerns. So this isn't unprecedented. But I think the reason that this is unprecedented has more to do with the name on the back of his jersey. We can talk about it all we want to. We can talk around it. But the fact of the matter is, there were a lot of teams, some of those reports that came out, some of them were true. Some, and when I say some of them were true, there were some teams that may have thought, I don't know, this may not be the guy. And I think that when you look at the amount of time that the Giants spent on Shedeur and for them not to draft him, yeah, some of those scouts were from that. I would be willing to bet that some of those reports, were coming from that camp. So now, where do you go from here? The only way to go is up. I think that Shedeur, even in his post, that was on Coach Prime's page, and I believe it was on his page too. But even his message to the people that were at his party saying, "Hey, bro, we know this wasn't supposed to happen, but it did." And he didn't let go of legendary. He continued to speak on what he believed and to claim what he feels his destiny is. And that's something I think is very important. You won't see Shedeur Sanders walking around with his head down. And I think this is a true test of confidence and a true test of his faith. The Sanders family faith. When I talked to Coach Prime earlier in the year, maybe around February, March, he said, he was like, "Look, bro, what's going on ain't right. What they're trying to do to Shedeur isn't right. But it's the same thing that happened to me when I came out, and I felt like I should have been, and everybody knew I was the best player, or I should have been drafted higher than I was, but I wound up in the best place for me, and I have no reason to think that I will not wind up, that Shedeur will not wind up in the best place for him." And a man of immense faith, Coach Prime, one thing he did say when we were talking, he said, "Look, Shedeur honored his father when he came to play for me. He sacrificed what he had going on to come play for me. He honored his father. God can't lie. He's going to take care of Shedeur, regardless of how it goes. This is what had been said. This conversation is probably about 6 to 8 weeks old now. He foresaw what was going to happen. And I'm glad that I'm sure that Shedeur had been insulated with plenty of support and love on Friday night, because, and just to keep it a book, this ain't the first time. We know it. I just think that it was kind of egregious because of what was coming out during the draft and how it happened, the name on the back of the jersey, and the hate that comes along with greatness. And you know what I'm saying? When, man, you know, there's an old saying, well, not an old saying, but it's a saying, you know, a little slang saying to say, man, when it's great in the place, the hate on the way. You know what I mean? Like, it's on the way. And even during the morning run live last night, you just saw people, and you could just go on Twitter and you could see when you saw quarterbacks get drafted not as high as they were once ranked, you didn't see the hate and the vitriol like this for Will Levis when he didn't go first round. You didn't see the hate and the vitriol for, say, Malik Willis when he didn't go first round. And both of those guys had first round grades early on. There have been guys who didn't go as early as they should, as they were once projected, and we've seen people drop. When Lamar Jackson went as late as he did, there wasn't like, you know, people laughing and saying, ha, yeah, we told you. Like, there are people who are genuinely getting joy out of Shedeur Sanders not going first round because they genuinely hate that family. They genuinely have, all right, this is the definition of being hated on. Like, let's look at this year's draft. If you search Will Johnson, there isn't anyone going to say, oh, Will Johnson, that's what you deserve. I knew Will Johnson was the worst. You didn't see anybody, you know, going to do or say those things about somebody falling out in the first round. So it's a clear message that there's a level or a section of America that has a problem with the confidence of the Sanders family. And that's fine, because this is where you see the true confidence of that family. When you have a quarterback as confident as a Shedeur, is going to rub some people the wrong way. And we know that. And frankly, I believe they're okay with it. I think now, when you look at the fact that there have been people who have lost money on draft day where it impacts, you know, their financial situation and their way of life for generations and their posterity, where sometimes those guys never get a chance to get those millions back. But this is someone whose marketing deals and endorsements, and to be frankly, the family that he comes from, he's going to be insulated from the stress that goes along with those financial ramifications of not going in the first round or as early as he should have. But what it does is sets him up with a chip on his shoulder, or as Chico said earlier on the morning run, shout out to Big Dog Chico, a boulder on his shoulder, right? A boulder-sized chip on his shoulder. Because I'm really looking to see. I want to know, you know, the difference in numbers and the difference in year-over-year numbers of the NFL draft. I'm willing to bet you this is probably one of the most watched NFL drafts in a long time. And when you look at year-over-year numbers, you should see a spike. Because I would imagine that the NFL draft has, just based on the timing and you know what year it is, they have pretty consistent spikes in year-over-year average of increase of viewers. And I'd be willing to bet anything that this year, when the numbers come out, this year is going to be the most watched draft in history. viewers and length of time. So yeah, when the magnifying glass is so close to one player, like the first ESPN notification I got after the draft was Shedeur Sanders doesn't go in the first round. I think this only goes to the story that Shedeur Sanders is writing for himself, that he's allowing God to author for him. And you're going to look at this as one of the turning points in the story. This is one of the parts in the movie that people say, oh, man, this is, you know, the training ground in the movies. This is, you know, one of the setbacks for the comebacks in the movie. And when you think about it, it's not even really a setback. This is really a league, you know, telling somebody nobody's bigger than the program. And whether Shedeur Sanders, let me rephrase that. It was never about Shedeur Sanders being bigger than the program. In his eyes, it was just about him having supreme confidence in himself and knowing that whatever program that he's a part of, he's going to be a winner. That confidence won't waver. Whoever and whatever team gets Shedeur Sanders in the second round is going to get a motivated player. They're going to get a smart player. They're going to get an accurate quarterback. But more than anything, they're going to get a motivated Shedeur Sanders, even more motivated. He's already a fierce competitor. But to see his drive now, that the fears of falling out of the first round have been realized, it's like, okay, cool. All right. We hear it all the time. So, you know, I want to, you know, we saw Randy Moss when he dropped to, I believe, 19 or 18, late teens, may have been maybe 20. I forgot his exact number. He said he's going to take it out on every team. He did. I look for Shedeur Sanders to wind up in a situation that's going to be perfect for him to take some lumps and some bumps and some bruises along the way. But I do truly believe that, much like his moniker, this quarterback will be legendary. And we're witnesses to one of the next great stories in the NFL, and this is just one chapter in that story. All right, drop in the comments where you think Shedeur ends up or your opinion on the draft. Also, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Be sure to go follow Big Dog Chico and also Uncle Neely on their respective platforms, the Pregame Network. Shout out to Bucky Well-Off Media. Shout out to Reach the People Media, my boy Darius. And anybody who isn't a member to this channel, make sure you go hit the like and subscribe button and become a member. We do weekly members only chats. It's gonna be fun. As always, man, I appreciate everybody. Dukes, D, Scoop. I'm gonna drop this right now. I just got, you know, sometimes I wait. It's 12:30. We dropping this one now. All right, baby. See y'all soon.